It's more about respect, you know. It's because I think we give much more than what we are getting back, and we, you know, it's not only for the top players, it's for all of us players, and from men's and women's side, we are very, very equal, and I think we, you know, the top 10 men, top 10 women, we rode a ladder, and it's not nice that after 1 year we are not even close to a conclusion of what we would like to have.
All right, Petch, the floor is yours. What's your reaction to all this?
Listen, I think the most important thing for me is this is not binary. This is very nuanced in terms of prize money. I think that everybody needs to kind of remember that this isn't just one or the other is right or wrong. I think everyone's got to try and meet in the middle to some degree. I think it's important to remember what the slams are doing. I think you've got to look at things like Sabalenka last year, 58% of her prize money came from the majors. That's just 27 matches compared to 75 that she played throughout the course of the season. If we take a look at the men's top 100, 62% of their prize money comes from the Grand Slams, and that equates to just 14% of their play in the season. I think the issue lies on both sides. Can it be fairer? I think there's no question in my mind that there can be a fairer split of the revenues at the major. But I do think you've got to look at the tours and the jobs that they're doing, particularly when you go down to like the 250s. $6,500 for a first round loss at a 250 is not a great number. So I think that somewhere in the middle of all of this, you've got to remember just how much the slams are doing. If you look from 100 down to 200 and the amount of money that the slams are putting in that period, I think it's about 70% of the players' money from 100 to 200 comes from the majors. They are pulling a lot of weight here.
Coco?
I couldn't agree more with Petch. I think that you have to look at our tours. I think the tours have failed us more than the Grand Slams. The Grand Slams have increased their prize money. They've given us more opportunities than ever, and also at the lower ranks. The tours have not. The tours have failed us as players, in my opinion. We don't get enough of the revenue share of even what this tournament in Rome does. We've moved to 2 weeks. You're getting more money out of these tournaments, but what are the players seeing out of it? I think the players are slightly misaligned in their view of where to place blame. I think there's also problems with who's on the boards. You got a lot of agents on the boards who own a lot of these tournaments, a lot of these agencies. There's a lot of commingling. There's a lot of problems. I'd love to have a Big T podcast conversation to extend it, but I think there are a lot of places that these players can look to besides the Grand Slams as to who we can point the finger to.
Definitely a lot of nuance in this conversation. Petch, what do you think that number should be, though, in terms of the revenue sharing? If it's 14% now at Roland Garros, what should it be?
Yeah, well, I think, again, I go back to my point about it being very nuanced. I mean, I put on X today, you know, the Masters in golf, you know, it's 15 to 16% of the total revenue is handed out in prize money. If you miss the Masters cut, you get $25,000 flat fee for everybody that misses the cut. You never hear a golfer complain about what's going on at the Masters. We have to remember as well that these 4 properties that we have that are that valuable, your off-court earnings, if you win one of them, is quadrupled. So not only are you making $5 million at the US Open on-court, but you're also getting that much more because it is that much more prestigious to win the US Open. So that comes with added value. Wimbledon is the 10th most watched event. If it's just about the players, why are Madrid, Rome, and Indian Wells and all those tournaments not on that list as well? If it's that important, we have to remember about the tradition of these events, the value that they bring for the players in off-court earnings by winning them. So we have to find that middle ground. Is it 20%? Is it even a number if everyone's talking about trying to be good for the sport and be fairer? Is it let's find a bridge between 15 to 20 to 22 and let's put that 7% extra revenue into the futures level tournaments where more players can potentially come through and we've got even more exciting talent from different parts of the world which at the moment don't really have the capacity to put on tournaments. So could we go down that route as well, or is it from the players' perspective just about money that they want in the prize money for the tournaments, or is there another way to put some of the funds that they think they're not getting into the betterment of the sport? And that's why I want to say that this is not just, a binary outcome. It is not just one opinion. There are so many threads to this conversation that need to be happen, that we can't lose sight of that.
Absolutely. It's a conversation that will continue. Thank you so much for your perspective.
No problem. Always here for it.
What's your thoughts on what they had to say?
Wow,
Chris?
that was a lot to unpack right there. I'm thinking about the challengers and the futures that Petch brought up. I mean, the prize money in those have not really gone up at all. And you have players in the 100 to the 250 range that are barely making a living, Sam. I mean, it's hard to stay out there for a while. I think the top players, you've had Coco speak about this, you've had Jannik Sinner speak about this. They're making a lot of money, and even off the court in endorsements, triple the amount. So yeah, they deserve more, but I'd like that share to be spread. But Petch started also talking about, I think, the other events besides the majors. That's when you start to dig into the TV rights. Are the TV rights the same for the men? Are they the same for the women? There's so many nuances, and I would just like everybody to get to the table and start to discuss. It's kind of like politics. Is everybody always going to be happy? No, it's going to be difficult. But I'd like the discussion to start in a bigger way.
And like politics, I don't think anything's going to get done. I mean, and the argument is with the slams, and it's with the Master Series mostly, right? And we saw that number yesterday, 14.9% of total revenue. That has to go up. Yeah. And yes, I want it to be distributed to the players ranked 100 to 300 too, but they're not the ones that are drawing in the TV audience as well. And just because you win Roland Garros or Wimbledon and you make $3 million, you can make that and still be underpaid. I know that is a lot of money, but the players need to be paid fairly based on the revenue coming in, and they are not right now.
I think both can happen, though. I think the top players can get paid more, but just a little bit more for those players, 100 to 300, would make a world of difference. Just maintaining the ability to stay on tour. So it wouldn't even have to be a ton of money, right?
A little bit of money for
that.
Both things can be true.
Yes.
But it all goes back to the revenue that's coming in.
Yes.
And when the revenue percentage is going up, but the prize money is not matching that, that's where the players get upset.
And the tournaments know that the players are not unified together. I think the tournaments know. They talk about possibly boycotting a major. The tournaments, I think, are in the majors are saying, do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Let's see if you have the guts to do it.
It's a threat now. It's a kind of an open threat. But until they think it might happen, they're not worried about it.
No.
Until it hurts their bottom line.
Yes.
That's absolutely right.